Hello, good day. I'm Ricky Fairley, and this is our first episode of Sambai Speaks. We're going to tell you all about this amazing research project that we are all working on to better understand cancer and better understand the specific cancers of breast cancer, pancreatic cancer, and prostate cancer. So I'm here with my team, our research lead, our brainiac, Melissa Davis, Dr. Melissa Davis, and our team of patient advocates that are working on this 5-year project, this Cancer Grand Challenge, and we're going to tell you all about it. And we're going to be doing this every month for the next 5 years. So we hope you get engaged in our conversation and learn a lot today. And this is just the beginning of many episodes and many conversations about cancer and how we can change the game on how cancer affects us. So I'm going to start with my precious friend, Dr. Melissa Davis. This is her brainchild, Project Sambai, and she's going to give us a great background on what we're all doing here and why you need to talk to us.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having us and joining us and for having me, Ricky. Ricky and I have known each other for some years now, and the energy that she has really helped inspire me to fully appreciate how patient survivors and the experiences of patients who've been diagnosed and survived breast cancer in particular are, well, the motivation for all the work that we've been doing and how we can better work with our communities to make sure that the work we're doing is meaningful to not just the scientists, but to our community. So we set out on this grand challenge to try and address cancer inequities. Now, I'll say this that, you know, cancer does not treat everyone the same, meaning everyone with cancer doesn't have the same experience. And patients who have also the experience of living a marginalized life because of societal pressures, because of who they identify as in the context in which they live, tend to have an even harder time overcoming such a diagnosis, right? So it's not just about fighting cancer, but how we fight it. Right? And I think that's the heart of standby. So let's start with what does standby mean. So our team, our acronym is SAMBI, SAMBAI, and it stands for Societal Ancestry Molecular and Biology Analysis of Inequalities. And what does all that mean? It means that we have pulled together this team of genius experts who are all passionate about the type of science that they do. Some of our scientists study how behaviors in society and social determinants, as we call it, impact patients' risk and then their outcomes. So, for instance, the neighborhoods that people live in, the types of jobs they have, the way society has treated them or mistreated them would be a better way to describe that. And then how that maybe reflects into barriers to access not only to healthcare but even just wellness. So food security is a huge issue. The infrastructure in the town or the city or the neighborhood that you live in could potentially be the source of some of the toxic exposures that we have in our water supply, just as an example, but certainly air pollution as well. And so we also have scientists who measure things like air pollution and toxins, not only in the environment, but inside of patients, like the air you breathe, the water you drink, all of that becomes a part of you. And so we're going to quantify, what is in the environment that becomes a part of people who have these very aggressive forms of cancer. And then we have scientists who are really focused on genetics, like me. And in that team, we'll be looking at how our genetic lineage, our ancestry, may play a role in why we see the most worst forms of cancer, of breast cancer, prostate cancer, pancreatic cancer, across our entire diaspora. So everyone who is of West African origin across the world tends to have the worst form of breast, prostate, and pancreatic cancer. And we don't all live in the same environment. but we do all descend from the same ancestors. And so that's why we want to fully understand how potentially our genetic lineage has unknown impacts, right? Because we haven't actually been doing a great job of including this particular population in any of the research that's been groundbreaking in the foundation of our understanding of the biology of how tumors form, but then also then the drugs that are being developed to treat it, the screening tools that are used to catch it early, so we're playing catch up here a lot. And then of course, all the way down to every single cell in the tumor, we're going to be looking at how, because of who we are and where we live, the cellular makeup. So each individual part of a tumor could explain how and why treatments or therapies do or don't
Mm,
have a good impact on our people. So a treatment that works well for someone of European ancestry may not work as well for someone who's of African ancestry. And it may have absolutely nothing to do with the food we ate or whether we have obesity or diabetes, but it may have something to do with the fact that the cancer mechanism, as we call it. So, why the cancer, why the tumor even formed, could be a completely different pathway. And
mm,
so, those drugs have been designed for the pathway in one population that drives the tumor growth, but they haven't been keeping this other population in mind. In fact, this is going to be groundbreaking because we don't even fully understand across the world population what is driving tumor progression, in these different populations. So we're bringing all of these very passionate people together, but the key aspect, sort of our let's call them the boots on the ground. So the people who are in the front line are the people that you see here. So in our work package for patient involvement, being led by Ricky Fairley, we will be depending on people who understand the importance of research, mainly because their lives have been changed because they participated in a clinical trial or they have been touched by some information they've learned by talking to maybe one of our scientists or, a scientist, whatever. And this particular group of people are going to be the ones who explain the study to the community. They're going to talk to the people in our communities and help us as scientists understand what is really the concern. What are the needs of the patients, of the people in these communities? Is it your concern that there is an issue with your water treatment? Is it a concern that there is mining happening in your community and you think your water is contaminated? Are you living in an environment where you think the infrastructure has somehow created this, you know, funky water supply, if you will, and you want to know, does this happen to impact, my health and my cancer risk? And so they'll go into each community and ask these questions. And part of our goal is to enhance not only the treatment, but prevention through this innovative research. Because understanding the unique and having particular focus on underserved communities will help us to integrate or co-join all of these different types of science, all these different types of studies, so that we can better understand cancer in these diverse populations. But I've talked too much. I wanna let the team speak to you because they are fabulous. I'm so excited that they've all agreed to work with us. So let's hear
mhm.
their stories.
No, and I think Melissa, it's going to be such a great study to understand, why cancer is different for us, as a people. And I didn't say earlier, I am a 12-year survivor of triple negative breast cancer, so I'm very blessed to do this work and understand what we're dealing with. So we actually have representatives from our different phases of the research. So Tia, do you want to kick us off with our first work package?
Sure. Thank you, Ricky. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be a part of Sambai. I'm Tia Tomlin Harris. I am a two-time overcomer of triple negative breast cancer, and I am leading one of the work packages called Work Package 1. And our focus, and I like to say we're the number one, but our focus is really around identifying, the right questions that we want to utilize for the community in our surveys. Because we're going to have to collect data from individuals. And as Dr. Melissa shared, is really understanding what are the needs of our community, what are their concerns. And so right now our work package is just doing that, coming up with that survey to make sure that when we press the go button, that our team, everyone here, can take that information out into our communities. And I'm going to call us our street team. We'll take that out to the streets and really, talk to people in our communities to help us really understand what are their concerns, what are their needs, and how through this project, through this research, how we can help address that through the work that we're going to be doing. So thank you so much, Ricky, for having me.
Great. And you're going to be looking at what we kind of call the social determinants of health, right?
Yes.
So
yes.
thinking about your life, your demographics, where you live, and all those things.
Yeah. And Ricky, one of the things that excites me about being on this project is through the work that I've been doing through our nonprofit here in Atlanta, Georgia, My Style Matters, is really focusing on what people are putting in their bodies and on their bodies. And so this initiative, this research project, this 5-year research project, is going to tap into a lot of that, because those are the things that we don't talk enough about in our communities. I remember when I was diagnosed, several years ago, and I heard that in other communities, but I didn't hear it in our communities.
Yeah.
We're now starting to hear more about things like, the hair perms and hair straighteners and, skin lightening and things of that nature. But when we're looking in our communities, we're having a lot of issues in our communities. There was a report that was just released not long ago about the PFAS that's in the water. And for those who are tuned in, PFAS is something is known as the forever chemical. And what that means is it's going to be pretty much in our bodies forever, for quite a long time. It is hard to actually get out of the water systems. And so when you think about that and look at the communities that are being affected and targeted, unfortunately, it's our communities. We live in the food swamps and food deserts. And so I'm just excited that this project is, this research, I keep saying project, but this research is actually taking place because it is so needed. We need to get down to the bottom of this. I'm tired of losing our loved ones, our sisters, and our brothers.
Yeah.
So, we've got to find some answers. So Dr. Melissa, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for this work.
Yeah, it needs to be done. We need some answers, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's one of the driving forces. When we were putting together the Cancer Grant Challenge, first of all, it's a very unique mechanism to get funding. It's a way to fund something that nothing else would fund. No other grant agency would fund something this big, this broad, and this deep. But one of the sort of premises behind the projects that do win this award is the team is trying to overcome something that's frustrating about some aspect of the field, right? There's something that when we write a paper and we have a groundbreaking discovery, in every paper, there's like this really annoying section we have to write. It's called limitations, right? So even though we found this exciting new thing, unfortunately, there's some aspect to the work that we couldn't reach because we didn't have X kind of data, we didn't have genomic data, or we didn't have social determinants data,
Right.
or we don't understand what the environment is where the patients work. Like every one of us is writing these papers, and there's this limitation part. And what this particular team is going to be able to do is write a paper with very few limitations because we'll have this comprehensive data across this huge population. And by doing this platform that uses all of these innovative tools, I don't know, I think we're going to change the game for not only just for the work of the people who are on the team, but for everyone who's trying to do this kind of work. So that's what's exciting to me. And I thank you guys for joining me on this journey.
Yeah. And that's what's unique about it. I mean, no one's ever done anything like this before. So we are so honored to be part of this work. So then the next work package, is, can you explain what we're doing with genetics, Melissa?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, when we think about, so I mentioned clinical trials, when we first got started, and that, we don't have a great representation in clinical trials. And what is a clinical trial? It's the type of research that's done with patients to ensure new therapies are safe and effective, right? And so when we look at the thousands and thousands of people who have enrolled in clinical trials, or even outside of clinical trials, just genetics research, where we are trying to determine whether there are specific genes or versions of genes, as I like to say, that are linked to a certain disease. When we look at who those people are in these studies and in this research, over 95% of them are going to be white or of European ancestry.
Yeah, yeah,
And then that data are what everything else is sort of built on. And so our genomics work package is going to what we call oversample, meaning enrich or ensure we have more representation of the underrepresented populations than any other study. So we'll be looking at African Americans, we'll be looking at Black British populations, even in the UK, Black patients in the UK, and then and in several regions in Africa. So West Africa, East Africa, South Africa, even East Central Africa. So we'll have populations from the continent involved and participating not only by giving us samples, but working side by side with us in each one of these work packages to ensure that the data that we're generating, the information that we're generating, is specific to this population. And it's important because to date, what we've been doing with this genetics information, right? So, like the first step after we take DNA from a patient and we sequence it, meaning we define each letter in the genetic code for a person, is compare it to what we call a reference. It's like having a color palette and trying to match the color palette with, the rainbow, so to speak. But unfortunately, the reference that we have doesn't include our colors. And so we try to get to the closest match, so to speak. But trying to do that means that our understanding is always a little off. It's not actually that accurate. And in this age of precision medicine, we need to make sure that the genetic information that we're generating is studied or investigated in an accurate way. So we'll be creating what we call new genome references in this work package. And I'm really excited about that because we know that because only 8% of the genomic data that is representative of the 80% of the world, so the non-white parts of the world, this new genome reference will help us to recalibrate our understanding. Because right now, when we take this DNA in the sequence and align it to the reference that we already have, we see these biases. We see these what we call artifacts. They aren't real in terms of being what we think of as mutations in cancer. Instead, it's just the diversity that's in our population, and it's being misinterpreted right now. And what you don't want in scientific research is a lot of misinterpretation,
no,
because misinterpretation leads to clinical tools that not only are not functioning at their sort of best level in this population, but could also do harm
yeah,
by misdiagnosing or, you know, misleading clinicians into thinking that, the status of the tumor is one thing when it's really something else. So this genomics work package, the genetic team is going to be a key aspect of not only cancer. I think that the data that we'll generate will be useful in every aspect of genetics research for this population. So that's another reason I'm really excited about, this innovative way of creating reference genomes that represent these regions in Africa, because we know that for African Americans and Black British populations, every region of Africa is represented in our genetic background. We just published a paper about that a couple of years ago. So
Yes, I know in the States, we do all this genealogy work and look at our, our backgrounds, and we all have this mix of African heritage
exactly.
that
Yep.
we're going to come, be in Africa looking at, the source, the real source. So
Yeah.
Danielle, want to talk about what's going on kind of with our work package too?
So with work package 2, we have been looking at the genetics and the environment portion of this of the genes, as well as what particular population we want to work with. So we still a work in progress in work progress 2. We haven't met for the last 3 Mondays because of the holiday and some other stuff. So we're still working on which direction we would like to go in. But we have a team. And we are all deciding what direction we want to go in. But me as a person who's working with this group, I'm a 24-year breast cancer survivor, triple negative breast cancer survivor. I was diagnosed when I was 27. I'm now 52, and I'm excited about life. And I actually have the BRCA2 gene. So I've actually done everything in my power and in my life to avoid cancer coming back. I mean, I've removed both of my breasts. I removed the ovaries and the fallopian tubes. I removed my lymph nodes, hence the reason why this wonderful sleeve is on my own, because I have lymphedema, which is what is it? Incurable. And so I'm going to have lymphedema for the rest of my life for the side effect of breast cancer. But I'm living life like nobody's business. And I'm enjoy working with this group, and I'm glad to be a part of it. And so I also am advocating for patients for cancer, but I'm also advocating for patients in my nonprofit work that I work with. I'm advocating for patients to actually change their diet. I actually am now basically whole food plant-based. So part of my advocations is movie night I'm gonna have after I get off this phone with you all. But I host a movie night once a month, basically trying to show people how to live this lifestyle and how other people are living this lifestyle through movies. And I have a nurse practitioner coming to do a talk back today, and a wellness coach who's going to basically give us some exercises as we move along. So I'm trying to help people to change their lifestyle through food and hopefully to prevent cancer. So that's where I'm at and the person that I am. And tomorrow I'll be interviewing for Food for Life. So I'll be a Food for Life instructor training. So I'm interviewing to get the training. So let's see what happens with that. So I can basically start teaching people how to cook this food while they're changing their lives. So yes, that's where I'm at. But I really am interested in preventing cancer from happening. So I'm glad to be a part of this group and learn more about the research aspects and how it can help people prevent cancer.
That's so awesome. That's so awesome. I love that we have this brain trust of survivors and thrivers, and that's what our role is here. And we didn't really explain that too much, but we are, Melissa has engaged all of us patient advocates to do this work with her. And I think that's a first for a Cancer Grand Challenge research. It's definitely a first for anything I've been in where patients are really involved in the conversation, in the research. And so we're so excited to have all of us here.
Yes, very important. Very important. You're right. It's the first time that any of these teams have actually involved patients as part of the team. So I think it's going to make all the difference,
It is. And we didn't talk a lot about Cancer Grand Challenge, but this is a huge honor. Melissa is the first Black woman to get this kind of research grant. It's a $25 million project over 5 years, and it's a global project. So we're going to be in 14 sites across the globe, and we're all excited to be here and do this massive study. But it's a tribute to our brainiac leader, and we're so happy. And your brainchild. So the next, can you give a little description of work package 3, and then Nikki can kind of talk about what her role is on the team, Melissa?
Sure. Work package 3. Well, I just did for the genetics. So that
Yeah,
was work
okay.
package 3.
Yeah.
Yeah. But work package 2, I just want to add to what Danielle mentioned in her work package. What she just mentioned is one of the reasons why it's important that patients are a part of the team because, for instance, our scientists are really just interested in doing mass spectrometry on blood, right? So meaning they're going to look
Exactly.
at it means using a laser and this high powered equipment to break every particle down into almost atomic level, right? So they're going to measure every particulate that's circulating in the blood of our participants. And they do that blindly, right? They just want to know everything. They're capturing every piece of information they can. But then the patient sitting on the team will say, diet is important, right? So while you're looking through everything, look for the bioavailability of certain nutrients from diet. Let's ask these patients what types of foods they're eating, how they prepare their food. And then that may help us understand why we see certain particulates. Like for instance, if someone grills all the time and they like their food extra crispy. Like I like my hot dogs extra
I know.
crispy, which is why I can't have them very often. But that char grill stuff can really be bad for you, and it's gonna be in your system. And so, if we understand the diet that patients have, then we can look for those particular,
Right,
those
right.
specific molecules in their blood, and then make that connection. Right? We know from an epidemiology standpoint and maybe even a biochemistry standpoint by looking at populations of people and asking large numbers of people how they eat. And then in the lab, taking some of these chemicals and studying how they impact DNA and cells, but actually having a big population and measuring specifically, like how often do you eat real foods? Well, if you eat it as often as patient A, then this is the level of that particular that's going to be in your bloodstream. But also, there's a patient who eats grilled food but has a salad with theirs, and so it brought the levels down, right? So having that type of quantifiable evidence, the rigorous science is what will help us not only continue to raise awareness for prevention, but invoke some policies
Yeah,
in key places and help us, get the message back to the community in ways they can make different choices, to
yeah.
improve their outcomes.
Wow, that's great. You used a bunch of big words in there like epidemiology,
Okay,
which
yeah, I'm
what is
sorry.
it?
Epidemiology just means studying populations of people and looking at um, a certain outcome, meaning, if we look across the whole in my neighborhood, who owns a white car, right? Like why do these people own a white car? Like what is their preference? What's the likelihood of people in a certain neighborhood having a certain income or a certain level of education? So yeah, it can be complex in terms of how they set these up, which is why I think they use that big word, epidemiology.
Need a big word to call put all together.
So
Yeah, yeah,
epidemiology also deals with the cause and effect
yeah,
of things.
exactly.
Yeah,
So they looking at the whole population, they're not just looking at one person. So
Right, right.
epidemiology is basically they at the beginning of a disease. So when someone says, "Oh, I got a cold," okay, well, cool, you only got a cold. Nobody cares about that. But when the population all have colds, since such as COVID-19,
right,
hence the
COVID.
reason why they had to call in so many epidemiologists to figure out what was the cause of the effect, and also to basically inform the public. What are
Mhm.
your risk factors? What are some
Right,
things that's causing this? And why?
exactly.
So now that's the reason why we have a list of symptoms, because the epidemiologists came in and say these are the symptoms that will basically you most likely, not saying that you most likely will have. So they never say you're going to actually have this. You just most likely will have this if
Right.
you are actually in this area. So that's what the epidemiologist is doing. And I don't know if I basically mentioned this with work package 2, but yes, they're looking at all the different things that may cause the different things. Like one of the studies that they did recently was about how is coffee basically is affecting this. We know it's coffee is basically one of those factors that's basically really causing this, maybe causing in a very high level, or whether type of laundry detergent you're using can cause certain things. So they're looking at everything, and like you say, like the hair structure is part of it. So how the hair is basically is involved in this. Are you using the wrong type of things? Like now you should have things that are
Right.
phthalates free, paraffin free. All of that comes from the genetics of things because they recognize in certain things cause cancer. As we know, 1 in 8 people will have cancer in their lifetime.
Yeah.
1 in 8. Not the other 7 can go about living their lives the way they want to, but one person cannot. And so I was the 1 in 8 of what have you. I have a family genetics of it. So I know what the BRCA, whatever, but I have a long line. My mother died at 37. My grandmother died at 37. They all had cancer. So I'm interested in the genetics of it, the environment factors. I'm from Louisiana. I don't know if anybody ever heard of Cancer Alley, but I live in Cancer Alley, which is an actual several parishes in Louisiana. So yes, I was genetically tested, but was my family living in those particular environments when they were happening? And so did that change some of my genes? And so epigenetics could be a very important factor here as well. So they may be having some of those issues going on as well. So those could have been some of the things. And so when I hear family members say, oh, I got cancer, I'm like, okay, y'all still live in Louisiana, y'all not leaving. I understand why you got cancer. So it could have been our genetics, or it could have been the baseline environment that we're living in. And so I'm glad I'm part of Work Package too, because I understand both the lifestyles.
Yeah. And there's so many things that could affect us that could be causing cancer that we haven't explored, especially with Black people. So this is a great opportunity for us. Iffy, you want to talk about what you're doing? I'm calling everybody out today. Go off mute. You're on mute, babe.
Okay, here you go.
Who are you? Where did you come from?
My name is Ife Mwabuku, and I'm an African. I'm from Nigeria. I am really excited to be part of this group. And before I go, I'd like to thank Dr. Melissa Davis for such a wonderful opportunity. I am really thrilled because it allows me as an African to be part of such a wonderful clinical trials. In Africa, as you all know, we are almost like the last to get into things or for things to come our way. So I'm hoping that being part of this, the group will be in a couple of African countries, and Nigeria happened to be one of them. And I am really excited for the simple reason that I speak the 3 main languages. So I'm hoping that would be an asset, because for you to work with the population, you need to be able to earn their trust. We need to be able to talk to them in a language that they understand. And hopefully that would help us. So when you talk about genetics, just like my friend Danielle also mentioned, I like to say that first and foremost, I'm an 8-year breast cancer survivor. My mother had breast cancer and she died from it. And having a family history, medical history is another issue that I know in most part of Africa, we really never know our family history. So that creates a little bit of a problem, because if you know your family history, hopefully you can start early in doing certain things, or at least going for genetic testing. So with that, I know that when I did my genetic testing, of course, it was obvious. So I'm making sure that my children, I have daughters, and I also have granddaughter, but men also have breast cancer too. So the important thing is knowing your family genes and knowing what to do and making sure that at least you are involved in and educated in a way that can help you to do things a little bit differently, or at least to seek help early enough. So it's a wonderful opportunity to be part of this, to be able to help in whatever way we can to make sure that this project is not only easy, acceptable, but also it would be something that will culminate in a bigger, in a bigger way that can help people to live better when everything has been done. So it's wonderful to be part of this project.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Ify, for being on our team. I'm always so inspired, but by patients, but because of the time that I've spent in Africa, I must say that, it has changed my life because I now have a deeper appreciation for how resilient we are in the sense that, it's not easy doing this type of work under any conditions, but when you're in a low resource environment and you still, are successful and you as a patient, have to consider your life, right? Like consider your blessings, consider
Right.
the opportunities that you have, and I really love that about what I see when I'm in Africa. I see like patients bring their entire families, with them, and I think that that's beautiful, and I think that is part of why that resilience exists because of the support that surrounds people at one of the most scariest times of their lives when you get that cancer diagnosis. But when we start working with our African, patient advocates, I feel that even more. Like I feel this like love that kind of emanates. It's like it's embedded in the culture of, I guess, just having the sense of community in all things. And I think we're going to learn a lot from you and our African partners about how we can be a better support to each other in the UK particularly, but also in the United States. And yeah, I just want to thank you for that. I think, as we listen to you, one of the things that I hope Sambai will also achieve is training more advocates, how we can implement community informed research practices, right? Community informed and data informed interventions, right? And I think that, again, working with you all side by side on the ground in Africa is the only way this is going to work. So, thank you for, being a part of our journey. I really appreciate it. I think it's going to make a difference.
Feel free to put your something in your comments if you have comments or questions, and we'll try to address them as we talk further. But I think, we're all honored to be a part of it and have patients part of this conversation because, oftentimes decisions are made without us and we're the people, and so we're so excited. And we feel like that's what the purpose of this show is to try to start these conversations and get your feedback. So please put comments if you want to. So Al, we're going across the sea now from America to England. As we're trying. We're in Danielle's waters over there, right?
Good evening to you all. It's a real pleasure to be here. It's almost 10 o'clock in the evening here now. So it's a summer. So to be honest with you, it's not too bad. It's not too bad, But it's my pleasure. It's real pleasure to be here and be supporting this wonderful long overdue project. I have to say that. For me, I'm age 66. I'm a patient advocate who has spent the last 12 years undergoing treatment for stage 4B prostate cancer. Learning about new inventions and medications that affect Black men is my paramount concern. Watching to see if they meet the various requirements of UK and US regulatory authorities excites me. There is a sense of importance for me to break down barriers to engagement among the Black community. I believe peer-to-peer advocacy is the key. It is this aspect of my advocacy work that drives me the most.
What does that mean, Al?
Well, basically, it's about dealing with my community, maybe not necessarily as a group, but as individuals, because I do find sometimes that when you try to deal with people as a group, there are limitations. But when you get people on a one-to-one basis, I think, in fact, I don't even think, I know people open up better, feel more comfortable. So for me, that's basically, how I see that. There have been many highlights along the way. Perhaps the most notable one was raising awareness of prostate cancer, which has long been a stigma within definitely the British Black community, and I know also in the American Black community. Through this, I wrote 2 books about my experience with the disease. These books provide a comprehensive overview and analysis of my experience along the journey. Wow. They addressed my mental well-being, physical incapacity, and the side effects of my treatment. You see, I was listening to what Iffy just said a little while ago, and it made me reflect on looking back to when I really should have engaged with prostate cancer far more earlier. In 1983, I lost my mother to breast cancer. She suffered, or she underwent a journey for 7 years. 6 months later, her sister passed from cancer. 5 years after that, their brother, my uncle, passed with prostate cancer. So you see, I saw one side of my family wiped out through prostate cancer. And I mean, one side of the family. So if that wasn't a warning sign, if that wasn't telling me that I needed to be on top of that, and I did remember, but I was so busy making a living, I forgot how to live. And hence why I do firmly believe that it's very important that we understand the history of our families, because without that, we are really going to suffer. I've had the immense pleasure of working with Project SAMBA, along with numerous cancer research stakeholders, charity bodies, and pharmaceutical companies over the past, 10 years now. Health inequality, diversity in clinical trials, lay review, and PPI have been just some of the topics which I've worked on. As a result of my voluntary work for Cancer Research UK, would you believe, I was named Ambassador of the Year in 2019. More recently, I progressed into the documentary film world, where I've written and co-produced an award-winning documentary, A Survivor Amongst Survivors.
Amongst survivors. We'll put that in the comments.
Thank you, appreciate that. These documentaries to date have won 48 International Film Festival Awards between 2021 and 2024. I accept that I've accomplished bringing increased prostate cancer awareness to the Black community. However, moving forward, I propose we need to educate Black men and their families and the effect on the Black community in the future. This, for me, will be achieved through books and blogs, film, interviews, and speaking engagements. So, for my part, that's what I'm looking to add to this fantastic project. And I will say this to you now, it's already being talked about here in the UK. I got a call from Cancer Research UK management saying that they had seen a wonderful presentation from you, Ricky, and basically it went down very well, and they'd seen me or heard me mentioned in there. So for me, I just you guys are going somewhere. You really are rocking the place, and I just think that we're gonna do as a team. We're really going to do wonderful things. I've traveled extensively across the world, and I've been in Africa many times and across Africa. So I understand what's being said here, especially with what Iffy said about being able to speak 3 different dialects as such. Extremely important. You cannot go into Africa without walking hand in hand with those who can help you in the given territories. So rest assured, working with our African brothers and sisters is going to be paramount in pushing forward. But the project itself is astounding. It's amazing. And it's going to send ripples through all, and I say all, nationalities as such. And I think that that's going to be an achievement in itself. But working with the project, working with you guys and attending these meetings has been, it's been educational, because from each of you, I pick up different things. I may not say a lot, but I pick up a lot because that's me, you know. But I've managed to keep prostate cancer at bay for 12 years now.
Awesome.
As I said, I'm a stage 4. It's been a challenge. Sometimes it's been unbearable, but I have a phenomenal wife who has been my rock throughout the journey. And I always have to mention her, because I do believe sometimes that the carers, or in my wife's case, she prefers to be called a supportive partner, are left out. And you have to understand that when that prostate cancer comes for you as a stage 4, when it hits you and puts you on the floor, puts you in hospital, you got to have that special somebody behind you. So all of these things are things that we can use to educate everybody else. So
It's a family affair. It's a family affair, and
Yeah.
we're hoping to understand, all the families that we need to reach and help people. We hope this research is going to help, families all of us. So we're so glad you're on our team.
yeah, thank you.
We can't wait to come to Africa and do this work in person and hold hands with people. Okay, Uza, last but not least, our project leader.
Hi, everyone. I'm so blessed to be here. My name is Uzo Sameka, and my full name, Uzamaka, literally means the road or the path is beautiful. And this truly feels like it is a part of my path. It's a huge passion project for all of us, especially me also being from Nigeria, like my aunt Ifi here. This project is literally, I see it as an opportunity for those who will be involved and their families, because as Ricky said, it is a family affair, it is a community affair. But this is an opportunity for us to build a healthier legacy. This is extremely important. It's monumental research. Whatever comes out of it is going to change our lives. So it is incredible. It's an opportunity to do amazing things for Africa, and we're so excited.
We are. So we're going to do a broadcast every month, and we'll be here on blackdoctor.org. We're going to bring all of our teams on and our scientists on so we can explain what we're doing. We hope to come to Africa. We'll probably hopefully make some visits to Ghana and Nigeria in the fall and do this live. And as we kind of reach out to patients, but our role as patient advocates is to make patients feel comfortable, make patients understand what we're doing, and help other people like us who've had this, have these horrible diseases, think about it differently so we can advance the science. We need more science for Black bodies. We need better drugs for Black bodies. And this is going to be such a foundation for building a legacy for us and to fight these horrible cancers. And we're focusing on breast, on prostate, and on pancreatic. And, Melissa is, a godsend in helping us in driving this work. And we're also proud to be here. Unless you have any founding words for our audience, our new audience. We're going to be here every month. We're so excited about our new show.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. I just want to echo something that Mr. Samuel said, which is that peer-to-peer connection. I think that at the heart of the work that we want to do, because we are the inequities team, that's something that I keep making sure stays in focus, because again, these scientists are world-class geniuses, but this is the inequities team. And so in order to really build equity and justice, health justice, you have to really understand who the people are, and why and what their comfort levels are. And so prostate cancer is a great example of how our understanding of it has changed now that we have started to investigate how Black men experience prostate cancer and not just make assumptions about it being slow growing or a cold tumor. Like, we actually know a lot more about the diversity and the disease because we've been focused on the Black community, on Black men, on African men. And so I think that at the end of our journey together, at the end of Sambai, because it's a grant, that will end eventually, my hope is that we will have these long-standing connections that are important so that people feel comfortable. We feel comfortable being aware, right? Or, not just saying that, you can talk to me, or even before cancer, darkens your doorstep, be comfortable with the awareness that if this unfortunate diagnosis comes to you, there is a group of people who understand what you've been through, and we already know what you need. You don't have to worry. There's someone here to travel that journey with you, and I think this is so very important. And again, it's why I wanted this team to exist, why I wanted the patient involvement team to exist, not just to have a spokesperson or a mascot, like, this is an example of one of the people no, I want you guys to help us, because I think that the longevity of the work will depend on the community that you'll build. And so I think it's very important. And I think that's all I want to close out this episode with. But thank you for having me.
Karen, no one fights alone. This is not a fight alone. And so that's why we're here. We're going to wrap our arms around our hopefully new friends. And we'll be here every month. And we'll be back next month to talk more about, we'll talk about each work package. And if you ever also want to view our other episodes, we have a show in the States called The Doctor Is In on breast cancer. And it's on every Wednesday, but we'll make sure we communicate that as we communicate when Sambai Speaks will be on. So this is Sambai Speaks. We hope that this information is always going to be relatable and reliable and real, and tell our story as we learn more about our cancers and make great things happen. So thank you, Melissa. Thank you, team. Blessings to all. We'll see you next month.
Yes. Thanks, everyone. See you soon.